Hey, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Tuesday night edition of Sean Kelly Into the Night with me, Sean Kelly. I'm excited today, man. I'm really excited. I got a great guest on coming on, and I'm really looking forward to hearing her story. And but before that, hey, Cindy Simpson, hello, good to see you, sweetie. Good to see you. My brother's in the room too, but he won't show his face. But I knows that I want to thank UPRN Talk Radio 105.3 New Orleans, 107.7 Mississippi. And I also want to thank Carnation for, sponsoring my show. And with that, Carnation, hey, good evening, 10 o'clock talks. And so I'm like really, really interesting. I just want to thank Carnation because I could actually put it on. My God, I'm in a great mood tonight. I am. My goodness gracious, I'm in a good mood tonight, and I'm happy with it. But I tell you what, the girl that I have on as my guest tonight, I was going through Facebook. I got two Facebook pages. I got mine, Sean Kelly, and then I got the Pittsburgh Paranormal Society one. And as I was, scrolling through the Pittsburgh Paranormal Society, I saw this person, and she had a couple pictures of you. Hey, Holly, good to see you. Thank you for stopping in, hon. So Cindy Simpson's so excited. Yes, it's going to be interesting. And so as I was scrolling through Facebook on the Pittsburgh Paranormal Society Facebook page, um, I saw this picture, this video of a UFO, and and I just was like captivated by it. I really was. I was, and then I started to look at all the stuff that she posted on her page there, and I just said I had to get her on. I had to get her on, and so I sent her a message this past week, and she gladly accepted. Um, but before we get into her, um, I just want to say that some very good news for me. My group, Pittsburgh Paranormal Society, the trademark has been approved. So I'm officially the owner of the Pittsburgh Paranormal Society. Hey, John Garland, good to see you. And without further ado, I'm going to bring my friend in, the girl from the skies. Hello, how are you?
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for so much for coming on the show.
No, I thank you for taking your time to help me share my story and my experiences a little.
And we are all looking forward. I mean, I'm telling you what, um, we're all waiting. I have a big, my chat room's filling up, and they're really excited about hearing your story. So, uh, everybody in the chat room, everybody in the world, the girl from the stars. So, take it away. Tell us from the beginning on up.
Okay, hi everybody. Well, it all started in Mexicali. I used to live in Chicago, and that was 5 years ago when I used to live there. I had to move to Mexicali because my husband was fixing his immigration status. And we really thought that we were going to come back, but we didn't. So we lost our apartment. We lost all of our things because we didn't have anybody, to help us out, sell our personal stuff. So practically we're like homeless in Mexico. And even though I'm fourth generation Mexican American, it's very, it feels different out there. It was just, the language, the culture, sometimes it's funny in our culture we say you won't know how Mexican you are until you go to Mexico. you know
Okay.
and my children, well, they couldn't even speak the language. We rented out this house, and we didn't even have furniture. We were sleeping on the floor. I mean, it was a terrible experience. We were by ourselves, and it was like the lowest point of my life. And We were outside on Thanksgiving. My husband had to work, and they don't celebrate Thanksgiving over there, even though we're close to the border. So we didn't even have money for a turkey or anything, and I never felt so low in my life. I know material things, it isn't all, but when you have children, it's very hard for them to understand these things. And I felt really sad because I was like, we're all alone and in another country, and I don't have money, and it's Thanksgiving, and all we had was for some marshmallows. We were roasting them outside, and I remember I was looking up at the stars because me and my kids, we always love to, stargaze. And I said that why we were so lonely if we were surrounded by a lot of people because we were in the main city. And I was like, the universe is so big, so why do I feel like a speck? I feel like nothing. And all of a sudden, we saw like four stars moving across the sky. And my daughter was like, Mom, what is that? And I was like, I don't know. I was like, they look like meteors. Like, it could be meteors, or maybe we never pay attention that well to the sky. I was like, it's probably like some kind of, or maybe stars do that. We just never paid attention. And
Right.
my daughter was like, really, Mom? Stars don't move like that. The next day, they came around again, and they weren't that close. They were like very far away. As the days started progressing and passing by, they kept coming lower and lower and brighter and brighter. They were responding to our voice. We would be anywhere in the city and they would appear. And I was like, what are they? Until we started seeing them travel through walls and they would come into the house. And that house that we were renting, it was like a two-story floor. And so my kids' room was upstairs and so was my room. So when we would see the orbs go in, because we were outside, my husband would be inside of the house and my son would be inside of the house because they weren't really like outdoorsy. And my daughter told me that, Mom, one of the orbs went inside. And I didn't believe her, right, at that time, when I didn't know that these things could go inside your home. And my son and my husband, they were in the house on the bottom floor, and they both said that they heard movement upstairs, but they saw my daughter outside with me, and they're like, "Okay, if our daughter's outside," my husband was like, "and you're outside, then who's upstairs?" So we went upstairs, and there was nobody in there. And my daughter's like, "I told you guys the orb went inside of the house."
Hmm.
Um, my daughter had an astral abduction,
How'd
and I
that?
didn't.
Okay. For people who don't know what astral abduction is, would you like to share that and explain that, please?
Oh, well, it was like an out of body experience, but she was taken out of her body. I feel bad because when my daughter told me this, we didn't believe her because all we knew at that time were there were lights. That's all I ever told them. I never mentioned UFOs or ETs or anything like that. But her story was like it was very, like crazy when she told us, so we didn't believe her. But now that I think about it, I felt bad because I was like, I wasn't there to, give her comfort, because now I'm in her shoes. And I remember when I was telling my family about everything that happened in Mexico, they didn't believe us. They thought I was going crazy.
That's
And
that's that's how that's how that happens, sweetie. I mean, seriously, everybody thinks. I remember when I started, investigating the paranormal. Everybody in my family thought I was nuts. Even my own son, he did for a long, long, long time. Seriously, but please continue your story.
I knew it was an astral abduction because when we would see these lights, we would go outside at night and we would see them through our windowsill, like around 3, 4 in the morning, and my daughter was asleep. So me and my son decided to watch them without her, and we saw two orbs approach us, and one left, and then one came really low, very low. It was like like the same height as the houses around us, and then
Hmm.
it left. And in that moment, when that orb left, my daughter woke up and she's like, I saw Billy. And we call him Billy because we didn't know what to call him. And when every time we would call, we would mention the name Billy, he would like brighten up even brighter. And we're like, okay, Billy, it is. Even though we're in Mexico, I was like, we're gonna tell you, we're gonna call you Billy. And so that name stuck with us for some reason. I don't know why that name popped up in my head. And she was like, I saw Billy, guys. And she just like sat up straight on her bed. And me and my son were looking at each other and laughing, but it was like that kind of nervous laugh and that kind of like you're crazy laugh. She was tiny. She was like, I think she was 5 when we were over
Hmm.
there. And
Now, okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Um, so when you saw the orbs, right? Did
Yes.
you happen to see like a UAP or UFO at the time when this was
No, they
happening?
no, they look like orbs. Well, they don't really look like orbs. To tell you the truth, for me, they appear like stars. Like they're pointy all the time, like very pointy stars. And I always try to tell this to, the people that see my videos. They look like orbs, but they're not orbs. They look like stars. I don't know if the phenomena appears differently for everybody. It could be. But for me, it's never spear shape. It's just star shaped, very pointy.
Hmm.
And it emits a lot of light. And so it wasn't a ship. So I knew it was like spiritual because we never seen them transform into ships. And like I said, we seen them go through walls, or sometimes I feel like when we were there in the house, we would hear them. It would, it would sound like those old TVs, like the big squared ones where you can hear the static on the TV. That's
Yeah.
how I could hear that sound when they were in my home. So I really knew like it was more than that. I'm like, I don't think it's a ship. I'm like, how can ships go inside our home? Or
Right.
stuff like that, like crazy stuff like that. That's how I started knowing that it wasn't spaceships because of the way they would move and interact when I would see them. And even till this day, when I'm talking to them, they interact like like if they were alive with emotion. They move, like it's hard to understand,
Okay.
to explain. But when my daughter was telling us this, I didn't believe her, like I said, and she said that it was very tall and that he had a hunch over, and that he wasn't talking, and he told her to follow him, and she said that the ship of his looked like a soda can, cylindrical shaped. And
Okay.
that's the key fact right there, that she said cylindrical. I believed her a year later when I saw this documentary about a lady saying that she was getting abducted by praying mantises, and she said that the ship was cylindrical. So it took me like about a year, even though we were seeing the lights. Like I said, I still couldn't believe that. I'm like, she probably saw it on the internet, or read about it. I don't know. um and then she said that it took her to their planet, and the planet was gray, and she said that she doesn't remember.
Okay.
I tried
That's
to
what
ask
usually
her.
happens.
Yeah.
That usually happens whenever somebody to an abductee, they go to the ship and they come back, and they really don't remember what's going on. Now, before the show we started the show. I know that you're religious. You grew up really religious, right?
Yes, Catholic
Uh,
based, yes.
Catholic, yeah. Okay, yeah. Um, did you have a problem identifying with, we'll call him Brian. Is that his name, Brian? Um,
Oh, Billy.
Billy, yeah, we'll call him
Yeah.
Billy. Were you conflicted between talking to Billy and the Catholic religion?
Yeah, it started making me like second guess everything, even reality, even my own insanity. It was really hard. When you go through things like this, it's not like seeing them. That's not the scary part. It's the everything else that comes in between. It makes you question everything. Like, oh my god, then how did we actually get here? Are we even on a planet? Is this enclosed? Like these things always play in my mind. It doesn't matter how much time has passed, but it makes you question a lot. It makes you question a lot.
Hmm.
And it's a little scary sometimes because I'm like, I know the government knows what they are, and if they're letting, let's say, us film, like me film, I mean, I haven't had problems. I haven't had anybody knocking on my door and say, okay, you can't, be exposing, the orbs too much. And I see that they're chill, so I'm like, then they already know what they are. So they're always 15, 20, 30 years ahead of us from technology and everything. This is why they're letting us film them and post about them, because if not, they wouldn't, you know? I think they
Right.
would have came and told me, you know what, you need to pull down your videos. But no. What I can say is when this started and I moved to my second house here in North Carolina, I started seeing a lot of odd things that my husband was like, "No, you're probably being paranoid." But I know I wasn't. I saw a drone like above my property and I thought it was the neighbors. And when I asked them, they said, "No, you know, we were looking around and nobody had a drone. Nobody was outside." And my neighbor's like, "That's weird." And is looking at your house. I have the video of it. And I have surveillance video of me talking to them outside. And when I looked through the trees, it was a cop car, like an SUV cop car. There's houses right here in the and behind these trees in front of my property. And I was like, probably it's, you know, one of the neighbors because it was a black SUV. And I was like, okay, chill. Anybody could have a black SUV. But I'm like, I saw him that he had his trunk open and he kept going back and forth from his car. And I'm like, okay, if he lives there, why does he keep going back and forth, you know, to
Right.
his trunk? Like these little things I was looking at. And then I saw that there was another vehicle there and this guy came out, like those private office, you know, like those detective officers. And he had like a, what do you call that? Like bulletproof vest. And I was
Okay.
like, okay, it's time to step back. And then my husband's like, maybe you're just being paranoid. Maybe they were looking for somebody. But I told my husband, no, I don't think so. I think that was weird that it was just hovering over our home like that. And then I'm always outside. So I can tell you like the altitude of the airplanes, what airplane it is, because I've been outside for 5 years now. And
Okay.
you can start distinguishing commercial planes to private planes to jets to, you know, and the altitude. And I have this app, and sometimes these airplanes don't even show up. And they're usually like around 2,000 to 3,000 feet. And that's not common for the area I live in. That's
Okay.
things that I started noticing as well. So I'm like, they're just probably, you know, observing. I asked somebody, I have a friend who is in the military, and they told me no, they usually do that, you know, they like to observe the people who observe. And I was like, okay.
Now, do you live in a holler in North Carolina, or are you up on a mountain?
I live very close to Virginia. Virginia's like 30 minutes away from my home. It's like, yeah, kind of like mountainish, you can say.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, you know what? You know, like I like to tell people, don't be paranoid because you're not. More than likely, because I know you put some great stuff out on your Facebook page, and I mean, there was a couple times a long time ago I was with Jenny Nicasio on Chasing Prophecy, and there were times where we got into some delicate situation, we you know, with guests and stuff. And actually, Big Brother was actually listening in, and they would screw up our show.
Oh, that's sad.
Oh yeah, it's
and, and scary at the same
mhm.
time. I wanted to stop filming because at first when I started my page, I wasn't doing it for the fame. I just wanted people to see the interaction, and that is something that you shouldn't fear. And I remember I
Right.
used to get bullied for it a lot, like bullied for it a lot.
Who
Here in North
bullied?
Carolina, they had like a group. Well, back then, now the administrator, he's really nice. His name is Sam. And back then, people would be like, no, you know, you're talking to like fallen angels or, you know, things like that. You're like, how do you know it's evil? I'm like, no, how do you know it's evil? Because of the experiences that I've lived for 5 years, you know, I can tell you that it's been positive. It's been so many blessings. I've never felt in fear of them, so I know it's not, you know?
Right. That's good. And do you, no, of course, I bet you believe in angels, don't you?
Yes. I believe that this is what we call angels. I think that this is things that every person in the planet and different cultures and races have seen and based off their religion. That's just my perspective.
Hmm.
But yes, they do believe in God because, you know, I remember when I first started seeing them, I started questioning everything, even my faith. And I asked them, do you, I'm like, is God real? And they said, of course, we don't just come from nothing. So I'm like, they do, they know who God is, you know? They tell me that God is in everything, that the universe is alive. I know it's going to sound crazy. They tell me that the universe is
You do
alive.
not. Trust me, you do not sound crazy at all. Not at all. Trust me, you
they
don't. I
they
believe you 100%.
yeah, they tell me that the universe is alive, that the universe is God, and that everything living in the universe and on this planet, is like part of God. It's like we make up his lungs, the heart, where like the blood cells, every little single thing makes up this celestial being, which is God. And they told me look in the mirror, because I remember I was driving, and sometimes even though I'm not seeing them, we're connected, and it's something really hard to explain. They know where I'm at. It's not just at my house. Like I could be anywhere on the planet. I've been to my parents' house in California. They show up there. I can be like, let's say at Walmart at 11 o'clock, and they pass by on top, and I'm like, how do they know I was gonna be at Walmart getting off my car like right now? Like how do they know these things? Until I'm like, they showed me an image in my head that we are connected like a string, like an invisible string, but energetically. Is that how you say, like energy wise?
Yeah,
We are
yeah.
connected. So sometimes I know when they are around because I feel it, and I feel it more like in my heart area, like right there. Like the vibration is very intense. I feel it there, and I
Hmm.
know they're around. That's how I know where to point the camera, because I know where they're gonna appear. I know it sounds crazy, but I could feel it when they're coming, and I know when they're above my house, even when I'm asleep as well. I'll dream about them, but in light form. I've never seen anything manifest ever. I've never seen nothing like I've never seen a green Martian. I get this asked a lot, like
A green Martian, come on.
yeah.
No, they're well, oh man, no, they're called grays, hon. They're called
Oh,
grays.
okay. Like people ask me, and they're
Tell them
like,
they're grays, and then they'll, when the green Martians. No, they're
yeah. They
called
always ask me
grays.
that. Are in the groups, they're like, "Do you see like little green men coming out? Like, have you seen
Mhm.
anything?" No, I've never seen anything, and I bet if I ever did, I think I'll faint from fear. I think
Not,
they.
you know what? I don't think you would, to be honest with you. Um, but my friend Jenny, she says there are many different race of aliens.
Oh, that's cool.
And that's true. There are many races. There's the reptilians. There's the grays. Uh, Me and my brother were talking about. There's just so many. Ashtor Command. Oh my God, and that's a long story. That's for another show. I got to bring Jenny on, but for a show on that. But you know what? This is so interesting. So that, and you know what I like about you is when you're answering and telling your story and answering the questions. I can tell, and my people are just not leaving the room, and because they're really interested. You're truthful and you're honest about your answers, and this is like really cool. I'm really. I'm really glad that you decided to come on tonight. Um,
Thank you.
so, what does
Um,
the how does your family feel now that you've been around it for about 5 years? Like your mom and your family, do they still think you're crazy or not?
no, like in Mexican culture, we grew up like we're so used to the spiritual world, everything, like shamanism, that's very heavy in Mexican culture. Healers, energy healers. So we grew up in the spiritual world, and we know to respect it, and so they knew, like they know that the spiritual world is real. But once I told them, what, at that time I think I'm seeing UFOs and they're speaking to me. Yes, they're like, no, okay, spirits are real. They would say ghosts are real, elementals are real, elves are real, but how can UFOs be real? I
Okay.
remember them telling me. And yes, it was hard. It was hard. It was hard because I didn't know who to talk to. I'm like, who do I talk about this? I remember when I was in Mexico, I'm like, do I call the government? Like, who do I call? Who do I say, you guys, this is happening? Me and my family, we saw a partial spaceship. I think it was like a saucer. It was like a partial. And the way it looked like, now that I think about it, because I used to say it looks like when you open up gas, you know how there's gas in the air? It looked wavy like that. It appeared and disappeared when we were looking at the orbs and during the day. And that same night, when me and my children decided to look at Billy, we opened up the current and we saw a small triangle. It looked the backside was like very far in, like boomerang shaped, and the headlight was like of a motorcycle, and it wasn't making any noise, and it was above the houses, and I closed the curtain, and me and my children almost fell because we were scared. Like we were more scared of that, and I knew right away that was the government. I'm like, I knew that wasn't a UFO. We just knew it. We knew it because of the way
Okay.
the headlight was. And I told my kids, they probably know. They probably, how did they know? I'm like, how does the U.S. government know? Even though we're right by the border, I'm like, how did they know that happened? I didn't know that much about satellites or saucers, and to this day, I'm sorry, I'm not so, I don't have this much knowledge of the UFO community, of all these things. When people ask me, what do you think about Bob Lazar and all this? I'm like, I don't know, you guys. I don't want to lie. Like, I'm not very, I've never been into the UFO community until I started, experiencing it. And I'm still learning from it. I'm still learning about people and their cases and how they've been shunned from the world. And it's sad because I'm like, this happens. Some people go through positive experiences and some people go through negative experiences. And instead of them getting help, psychological help, they get, criticized even more. And I'm like, that must feel very, like, in a very dark place. You're going through something psychological that you don't understand. We've been programmed all our lives thinking that we are alone. We are not alone. And then this happens, to people, and who do they talk to? Who do you ask?
True. We have Amanda Lombardo, and she's from Japan. Welcome, Amanda. That's cool as hell. Japan, that's great.
Yeah.
That just like makes me feel good that they're listening in Japan. That's great. But no, I believe you. And I mean, I believe that the government has a lot of things to um, that like if they don't um, if they don't like what you're writing or viewing or what you're seeing or what you're saying, they'll definitely come up on you. But I highly recommend that you get into some UFO communities and you watch some of the shows here on UPRN Talk Radio. And we have a lot of guests. I mean, there's different shows on this platform here, and there's a lot that do talk about UFOs, and they got some good people, as guests that come on. Amanda says we have no one in Japan we can talk to. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Is there anybody in the chat room that might have a question uh, for the girl from the stars? Um, Feel free, put it in the chat, and we will ask her that. But you know what? It is at the 30-minute mark, and I am going to take a little 70-second break. And just hold in there, the girl from the
Yeah.
stars. Hang in there, and we'll be back in 70 seconds.
Okay.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Into the Night, the Tuesday night edition of Into the Night with me, Sean Kelly. Again, I want to thank UPRN Talk Radio, 105.3 New Orleans, 107.7 Mississippi, for allowing me to share this hour with you on Tuesday night. Also, you have to remember that my show is also on a Sunday night from 8:10 to 9:10 p.m. And also, before my show on Tuesday night, we got the awesome Jenny Nicasio with Tom. That's his name now. He's her co-host, and her show is called Chasing Prophecy, and that's from 7:10 or 7 to 8 on this channel. So. Um, and also, there's a lot of other good shows during the week on this platform. So, just, save this. And if you ever decided to want to listen to another podcast or radio show, please feel free to pop in and check out all the different types of shows we have on here. Um, uh, Getting back to my guest, the girl from the stars, she was telling us about um, Billy and the four orbs, the spiritual being, the celestial beings, and this half hour, we got about 20 minutes here left. Okay. So, what I want to talk about is before the show, you were saying, do you believe in spirits and ghosts and the paranormal?
Yes, I do. Since I was little, I used to be very and still am very sensitive to energies and spirits. And growing up as well, I remember telling my parents, and they never believed me. And I still have a room full of glass dolls. Love them, love them, love them. And so we moved into this trailer out in California. It was like in the middle of nowhere in front of a vineyard. There used to be lots of vineyards there. And I think the trailer was haunted. And I remember telling my parents, the dolls move. I hear footsteps in the hallway. I remember I wouldn't sleep all night, and in school, it was really hard to stay awake. But I was all night, like under my covers, crying because they wouldn't leave me alone. And
Hmm.
this progressed with me, even until now. My husband, sometimes he laughs and he's like, first it was spirits, now it's UFOs, because he knows that anywhere we move to, if there's like energy there, it will manifest in some sort of way, and chairs will move, and anything like that. There's this ghost that has always followed me around since I was little, and I think it was from that trailer. And how I know is when it's here is it will swing, not like fling, like push a chair across the wall. And I remember when I first got with my husband, we got our first apartment together, and I told him this. I'm like, I need to tell you something, before we move in into our apartment. And he's like, what? I'm like, I told him, I can see spirits, but I never talk to them because I'm very scared. It's a gift that I really don't like using because I'm a scaredy cat. I can tell you this right away. I'm a scaredy cat to these things. And I told my husband, and anywhere I go, like it becomes haunted. It's not that it becomes haunted. I guess my energy, somebody tells me that brings out these things. So that's why it's not that it's haunted. It's just that they
Yeah.
were there already, and my energy brings things out. And he didn't believe me. He would make fun of me a lot until he started experiencing things, people calling out his name, stuff like that. So he's so used to it now. He's not even scared, but I am. I'm still scared. I'm not gonna
You're
lie.
so scared.
Yeah. At night when I'm asleep, I know there's a new presence in my room because they'll usually um call me, they'll say mommy. They'll call me mommy. They'll use my children's voice, or they'll use my husband's
Hmm.
voice. And my husband never calls me by my name. He calls me baby. He's like, baby. And I wake up and there's nobody there, and I'm like sweating. And in Mexican culture, there's this saying that they say, never, ever, ever scream at your house, like, let's just say Billy, like in the house. Never, because that's how spirits use that against you. That's how they know. And I used to think that was funny. I never believed in that, and now I know why. I tell my husband, the spirits, they usually call me mommy or baby because they haven't heard anybody say my name in the house.
Right. Okay. That I never heard that. What other? In fact, I'm glad you brought that up. What other superstitions of the Mexican heritage?
Oh, elementals, fairies. There's something called duendes. It's like the Mexican version of an elf, and they are very real. And in
What are they
Mexico,
called? What are they called?
duendes, duendes.
Well,
And in Mexican culture, they are very respectful, the natives that live out in the forests, because they know that there's elementals and things there that take care of the trees and nature. And if you go in and you don't ask for permission, bad things are going to happen to you. Like bad things will happen to you. Sometimes, even the government knows this. When they start tearing down trees and start trying to construct in the area, their machines will break down, and the natives will tell them, "We told you, like you're supposed to ask for permission and leave offerings for them." And then they do that because
What
they
kind of
know.
offerings do you leave them?
For the duendes, you usually leave them food, anything that you would like to, toys, anything. They will take it. Cigars. I
Now,
think people leave cigars, beer.
cigars. So, would you consider the Wendes, those whatever you call them, like elves?
Yeah,
Um,
they're like elves. Like, yeah, there are elves, but they look a little creepier though. They're not like the pretty ones. They're If you look up the word duende on the internet, they're kind of creepy looking. The Mexican
okay,
ones, yeah, and they usually say that they steal your children, and there's some living in the water. Like a lot of people believe in this stuff, and I believe in it too because I've been in Mexico and I used to be like a skeptic. Believe me, I used to be a skeptic about everything. And if I were to hear myself now that I'm older and saying that I saw, I'm seeing these things, I wouldn't believe myself either. I used to be a big skeptic when I was living over there. It's like the houses are like 10 times more like haunted. That's something that me and my husband, we always talk about, like, why do these things, like, I'm not saying they don't exist in the USA, but I'm saying why do they manifest like strongly in Mexico? Is it because there's more portals out there? I usually think
I
that.
would have to say that there's a a lot more energy, and the energy that they got in Mexico is like good, and then there's bad, right?
Hmm.
But it just seems like even the bad people from Mexico, they still have some sense of Catholicism in them. You know,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? So
Yes.
it also, if you ever heard of ley lines, just look up ley lines and see if one path, crosses like right where you used to live in Mexico. I mean, there is so much stuff out there right now that you could probably find out why. Um, you know,
Yeah.
that there's a lot of energy. But you also got to remember, and believe it or not, your state, North Carolina, now they have fairies, they have gnomes, they got it all. And that's my question to you. Since you've been in North Carolina, have you experienced fairies and of your own in the
No.
woods?
No,
No?
never. I've never or Bigfoot, because people would tell me that Bigfoot is here, and I'm like, oh my god. Like I'm even I like now that I'm starting to see these lights and everything. I used to like camping and stuff. It's just, but my life has changed a lot because my husband's like, we can't go camping now, because
Why
I'm
not?
like, why? He's like, I'm scared we're gonna get abducted because of you. He always says that, and I
Ah.
laugh. I'm like, are you? I'm like, are you serious? Well, I wouldn't blame him either. That's aspect in our life started just changing a little because I'm very sensitive to energies. I don't know if you ever saw an image on my Facebook of an elemental in the tree. I was
No,
in
I
this
haven't.
I was in this park here in North Carolina, and me and my children, we're tree huggers. We usually talk to the trees,
I do.
and
I do.
I told them that there was an opening in the tree, and in Mexican culture we say that's where the duendes live, and the elementals. It's like a portal in the tree for these energies. And I was just playing around, and I just knocked on the tree. I remember I knocked on it, and my daughter, she was like, "Hello, are there any duendes in there?" And then I took a picture. When I went home and I started analyzing the picture, I saw a face of an elemental, a woman in there. Like, how it looked like Pocahontas's grandma, her face
Oh, really?
inside
Really?
that whole, yes. And I even screen recorded those images so people could see that it wasn't altered in any way. I could send them to you
Yeah,
after this
please
talk so you
do.
can see them. So I remember I was talking to this shaman, and he's saying that yeah, they're real. And that's why, like, all these things happen to me, like UFOs and spirits and elementals, and all this happens is just because This is what they say in Mexican culture. You have one foot in the physical world and one foot out in the spiritual world.
Oh,
You're living
wow.
in both. Yeah, that's a saying that
I
they say.
believe that. I believe that. Jennifer M., thank you for your question, Jennifer. She asked, did the orbs follow you from Mexico to North Carolina?
Yes, they did. The only difference is that they don't hover to the ground here how they used to do in Mexico, and that's something that I don't understand. I don't know why. If where I used to live was more crowded, but I've seen there is a lot of orbs here, but not like in California and in Mexicali. Mexicali, there's this place called La Salada and another place called La Rumorosa. Everybody there knows these orbs exist. They know that there's portals there. Everybody
Okay.
sees them during the day too. A lot of people, but the government won't acknowledge it. The people already acknowledge it there in the city, but the government won't acknowledge them. You know, they won't back it up.
Is that the Mexican government or the
Yes,
United States government?
no, the Mexican government.
Okay.
There's
And
police officers that have seen those orbs and they follow them. And there's a video. Hopefully, I can translate it for you or see if the subtitles will come out. And they were talking to the news reporters saying they were following an orb, a UFO orb, and it disappeared. Like they were like scared. They didn't know what it was.
why is the Mexican government hush about all this stuff?
I don't know. See, that's the problem that I don't understand. Like, I don't trust the U.S. government, and I don't trust the Mexican government because,
Welcome to
you
the
know,
club.
yeah, you know how okay, people are already realizing about the orbs. People are filming them. Okay, so why is the government not saying anything? You know, like they studied them for a long time. You know, they've been studying people who see the orbs for a long time already, so they already know what it is. They already know what it is, and they're chill about it. But they're just having us crack open our heads, about the orbs, and they're not telling us. A lot of people have their own perspective of what it is. Some people say it's angels, some people say it's Pleiadians. Everybody has their own perspective of what it is. I, since I've been experiencing them, I feel like it's a celestial light force.
Okay.
Like it's like I've been coming to this narrative. I know it's gonna sound crazy. I just, how we're all conscious. We all come from the same conscious. They all say we're all one. So I
Right.
feel like it's the universe. The conscious, the universe is the same thing, manifesting itself into our reality, into these individual lights, and they will shift into anything that you believe in. Let's say you believe in fairies, it will turn into a fairy.
Okay.
Or if I believe in duendes, it will turn into duendes. And that's what I think that these orbs are based off from many folklore and religious aspects. Some people say they're ascended masters. I mean, that's what I feel it is. Like it's us. We're light. We are conscious. And they always tell me that like this is how you look when you die. This is how you're gonna look because you're light, and you're gonna go back to it. Because we're all
Okay.
one. They always tell me that. So I know it sounds crazy, but that's just my perspective from my experiences that I've lived. That I used to think that it was AI. I told my kids one time because now they're older and so they understand more. And I'm like, what if it's AI like advanced? I used to say that advanced AI. And they were like, really, mom, advanced AI? I'm like, well, I don't know. I'm like, what is your perspective,
Well, John Garland Eds, he says collective conscious is one, and and he is so right there. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I am just really enjoying your story tonight because what I do feel your energy. You have a lot of good energy going on there. But I'm just like in awe. I have like so many questions that I do want to ask you, um, but we're running out of time. I got about 5 more minutes with you, and so with the last 5 minutes, tell us your best story you ever had that you had to deal with Billy.
With Billy, okay, he cured me. I couldn't have babies, so he cured me because my oldest is 11, 11, and my second oldest is 9, and I was crying for a child, to be with child, and I couldn't. I had a very bad reproductive system. He cured me. I almost died giving birth. Um, that same day, and I remember that I was calling out to God in my mind, and there was a voice in my head telling me what to do, how to talk to the doctors, because the doctor that was there, the surgeon, was panicking, and so were the nurses. I was bleeding out. They didn't know where I was bleeding out, and I remember I was lying there, and I was imagining myself as a beacon of light and telling God and telling these lies, please don't let me die. I know there's been other moms, and I bet there were better moms than me, and they probably had a heart of gold, but I'm just asking you, I'm not a saint, but to not let me die. Like, my children need me. And I remember imagining myself as a beacon of light. And I said, I am here. Just, help her, give her wisdom, something, help her find where I'm bleeding from. And yes, she found it and she closed it. And I only lost 2 liters of blood that day, I remember, and it was a very scary experience. All throughout my life, I've had a lot of near death experiences, and now I
Hmm.
understand why. It could be that, if now that you think about it, what is the definition of an angel? Isn't it a guardian? It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go like into biblical terms with the
No,
wings and
not at
everything,
all. Not at all.
but
Not at
I
all.
feel it like they are my guardians, my angels. That's what I feel like they are.
Okay.
They're these spiritual beings that we're not going to understand. And I feel like we're never going to understand. It doesn't matter how time flies. I just think that's how, life is. That's how things are supposed to be. We're not supposed to understand everything. Because if you go into one rabbit hole, you're going to go into another one and another one. Because this UFO, like, it branches off into other things, like Bigfoot. How are you going to explain Bigfoot? Cryptoids. How are you going to explain all that? Interdimensional beings. There's people said that, have you heard of those 411 cases that people
Yep.
disappear? I mean, how do
Yep.
how do we branch all that into one category?
You can't. You really can't.
So there's
No,
so
no.
much stuff out there that we're never gonna
Oh, you
understand.
just. Oh, you know what? I'm just hitting. I'm just hitting. I'm not even up on the mount yet with that. John Garland Ed says, please have her on again. So much
I'm
more to
actually
learn.
I'm actually having John Garland come to my house because I'm very, it's not that I'm antisocial, it's just that my energy is like so sensitive, so I don't, invite just anyone, or I don't have a lot of friends, but I'm actually inviting him over to our house so he can experience the orbs and people can see another POV of them from
Hmm.
somebody else. So
Right.
he's coming over to my house on June the 29th. So hopefully he can share his videos with you guys.
Yeah, we could. That would be great. Listen, getting close to the end of the time. I want to thank you again for coming on the show tonight. Will you be willing to come back on next month?
Sure thing. I would love to, love to, love to, because there's so many things that have happened that there's not enough time. Like 5 years of experience, so much stuff in little
Okay.
time. It's very hard. I want to tell you guys so much stuff that has happened and happens in our home because of these orbs. I have videos of them inside the house as well. There's
Okay.
they have been in my room with me. I could feel when they're there.
Right.
They've been in my house. One time, I was home alone and I called my husband freaking out because the lights were going haywire. Everything was going crazy. And I didn't know what
Hmm.
was going on. And I asked my parents because, like I said, in Mexican culture, they know so much of the spiritual world. They're like, just tell them respectfully not to do that again, that it's scaring you. And I
You
said that,
did.
and that's never happened again. I guess
There
that
you
their
go.
energy is so intense
Hmm.
that I think that happens with the electrical stuff. I think that's what it is. Because I asked my husband, I'm like, "Are you sure there wasn't like a short circuit going on?" He's like, "No, honey. I just replaced all those things before we moved into the house."
Okay, Jennifer M. And I was just going to ask her this question. Where do we find more info about you?
Um,
Facebook.
on my Facebook page, The Girl from the Stars, I just don't share a lot of personal stuff because, like, of things that happened to me, experiences, because I feel like people are seeing the orbs. They're seeing how big they are. I mean, you've seen my videos, how humongous they've gotten, the crazy stuff that they've done in front of airplanes, but they don't want to hear the things that I'm experiencing with them.
Oh,
They're like,
can I tell you something, hon?
yes.
Everybody that is in my chat room now and everybody who listens to my show are in are into the and they want to learn more from you. So you do not have to be shy in this room. You can
Anybody
just
can experience the orbs from 5 years from now. The way you can experience is fill your heart with a lot of love. Just think about some memory. I don't know, something. Fill up your heart with love. Your heart has to be in a good place. You can't be in a bad mood all day. So try to just be calm. That's hard nowadays. It's very hard.
Yeah.
Um, but try to meditate during the day, go outside, and they'll show up. They will. I promise you, they will show up. There's nothing. I just want to point this out. You don't have to be special, and there's no chosen ones. That's a lie, because we're all chosen ones. We all
Hmm.
come from this. We're all star seeds. If you think about it, yes, we are all star seeds. So don't worry about it when you see these posts saying that, what star seed am I? That stuff confuses me too, because I just. I'm like, I don't even know what star seed am I either, but I know that
Okay.
every one of us is special, and we all come from where they come. That's what they tell me. We're all light. So don't worry about it if you're not seeing them. That doesn't mean that you're not special, and you don't have special powers. No, it just, maybe it's
God,
not your time yet.
God bless you, hon. Again, thank you for being on the show, and we can make a date for next month to put you back on again. And I'm going to close up the show right now. Okay, you're more than welcome to stay in the room here with us. Um, so, children, if you can, please go to your parents, give them a hug, and tell them that you love them. And parents, please go to your children and give them a hug and tell them that you love them. And if you have no parents and if you have no children, please give somebody a hug and tell them that you love them. Because those three words, I love you, go a long way. Um, Again, I want to thank the girl from the stars for being on. I will definitely have her on next month. Um, and everybody, don't forget this Sunday night, I have my show. I'm getting very, very good numbers for Sundays. And if you can, please share my show, my link to all your people so they can listen to the show on Sunday and on Tuesday. And on that note, good night, everybody. And we should have a good day and evening. And definitely, definitely see you Sunday. Good night, everybody.